Hey guys, this is Joe. Today I want to introduce you to our partner Vanta. Achieving ISO 27001 or SOC 2 compliance can unlock major growth for your company and build customer trust, but the process can be time intense and costly. Vanta automates compliance, getting your audit ready quickly and saving up to 85% of associated costs. And Vanta scales with your business, helping you enter new markets. Join 7,000 global companies like Atlassian, Flow Health, and Quora that trust Vanta. Claim 20% off Vanta at vanta.com/startupradio. That's vanta.com, spelled vanta.com/startupradio.
Welcome to Startuprad.io, your podcast and YouTube blog covering the German startup scene with news, interviews, and live events.
Hello and welcome everybody. This is Joe from Startuprad.io, your startup podcast and YouTube blog from Germany, as well as the world's first 24/7 internet radio station dedicated to startups and tech companies. Wherever you're listening or to this interview or watching it, make sure to hit the like and the subscribe button here. This time I do have an interview with Jim here. Hey, how you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Joe. And yourself?
I'm doing great, thank you. We actually have been in touch via LinkedIn, by the way, a very good way to get in touch with me. And it turned out you are a British guy, a headhunter, working for startups, living in Frankfurt. So I thought, so many great ideas how to do an interview with you. But let's get started a little bit on the story. What brought you to Germany, to Frankfurt? It wasn't Brexit, right?
No, it wasn't. Although that brought its own challenges that I've recently had to negotiate, as I'm sure a lot of British people have who are living in Germany. I've been in Germany now. I came here about end of 2009, and it's quite a sort of unusual sort of journey, really. I came here for work. I think that's a lot of, there's the same as a lot of people would come to Frankfurt, really. If you're coming to Germany and you'd not sort of had any knowledge of Frankfurt, I think you probably end up at other locations first. Berlin naturally, maybe Cologne, Munich. Frankfurt wouldn't be a natural choice, but I think that's because a lot of people don't know it, myself included. So I came here for business. My company were starting up a new, they were expanding from the UK to Germany, and they asked me to come out here and help build up a team here. And I've been to Germany on holiday or backpacking actually about 5 years before, and I really fell in love with it. I had a great time in a number of cities. I was in Berlin, I was in Munich, I was in Weimar, I was in Eisenach, I was in Hamburg, and I just had a really good feeling about it. I had people were really friendly. I did German at school to a certain degree, so I could sort of, order things and sort of navigate around and realize how good everybody's English was in Germany. And
how good were your curse words in German at this time?
Oh, they weren't great, but I mean, there's definitely books that will help you with that, of which I have, and it's always a great way to start an evening to learn another language's funny jokes and funny words that you shouldn't say to people in sentences.
In terms of German funny words you can actually say, what would be one of your favorites? For many people, it's Eichhörnchen, a squirrel.
Oh yeah, I like Weishai or Warmduscher. These have always been ones that I found particularly funny.
The little translation would be like soft egg or somebody who only takes warm showers. That means they're soft, right?
Exactly. There's such cute little sort of insults that they just make me smile whenever I.
There's another one, a Schattenparker, meaning a person who only parks his or her car in the shadows that it doesn't get warm.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. So many great things that you can learn here by being here a longer period of time.
For everybody who's seriously studying German, down here in the show notes, I'll spell them out for you.
Exactly. So yeah, I studied. I travelled around in Germany a little bit, so I had a grounding of it, and then my plan was only to come and sort of work here for a couple of years. But I think, as usually is the case with people, they fall in love, and that meant that I stayed in Frankfurt longer than I had planned to. But it's now come to a point over 10 years that I'm settled here. I have an apartment. I have 2 beautiful daughters, and happy here. And actually, interestingly enough, the reason I came to Frankfurt, irrationally enough, was that I loved Berlin so much that I kind of had this plan of coming to Frankfurt, using it as a stepping stone to go to Berlin. And 10 years later, I'm still in Frankfurt. I don't actually want to live in Berlin anymore, and I'm very happy here. So it just shows you, sometimes, take risks, take a chance, and, they have a really good way of working out for you in the end,
It reminds me of a story. I was talking to an Italian guy at one point when I was in Singapore, and he said, I was originally sent here as at a secondment for my company. I was planning to stay 12, maximum 18 months. That was 22 years ago now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I mean, time does fly, I think anyway, but I think it just shows you, yes, you can kind of, your desires and your sort of goals can change over time. And sometimes you need to do something else to sort of realize that, to have another experience, to kind of challenge what you thought you wanted. And it's okay for things to change.
Before we get into serious business here, talking about headhunting and recruiting, I would be curious, because I always tend to say that Frankfurt has some very beautiful places. Unfortunately, it's very good at hiding them. Would you agree? And what would be like 1 or 2 of your favorite places?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you could say that about Frankfurt, because I think you only sort of see the city centre, and I think when you come to Frankfurt, you think, oh, this is supposed to be the financial capital of Germany, and there's all these skyscrapers, and either you sort of impressed by it, or you don't like it, and there are lots of green areas in Frankfurt, lots of parks, lots of places to take your kids. I mean, hidden gems. Yeah, that's an interesting one. I mean, I don't know if it's a hidden gem, but a great place to go, I think, is, and particularly at the moment, is, if you're a sports fan, to go and, go to what is now the, Deutsche Bank Arena, go and see Eintrach Frankfurt play, right? If, coming from England, I think a lot of people, hold the English football in high regard. Okay, but the fan culture here in Germany is something completely different. It's I remember going to the, see Eintracht play, and, all the banners before the games, and the standing and the chanting and the flares and the colour and noise. It's such an experience. And I definitely recommend it. If you're interested in sports, I think you have to go there. You have to experience that. That I put as number 1 for a sports fan. Number 2, I think you've got to go and just sit on the mine, and just sit there with friends and relax. Get yourself a I'm talking cliches now, but let's go for it. We're in Frankfurt. Get yourself an Appleboy, the apple wine, and just sit on the side of the mine and just let the time pass. Just enjoy yourself. I think that's a beautiful place to go to.
To give you some time to relax, I would also like to share that Frankfurt has a beautiful circle of parks around the innermost city. It's the place where they used to have the city walls, and actually it's only interrupted in one place. This this park, it's the Old Opera, a very beautiful opera house that is not the venue of the opera right now. It has a new venue, but actually you can have it's a place where you would go for classic concerts and more modern concerts. For example, I have seen their West Side Story, Summertime by Gershwin, and Katie Melua.
Okay, yeah. I've not been there. But if we're talking, I mean, where a nice place to see music is, if in the summer for concerts sometimes, is the Palmengarten is a lovely place to go to, and I went there a lot in my first few years. Perfect place for dates, I think, to take someone. There's a lovely little lake there, and you can rent rowing boats and row out there. I was terrible at rowing. Almost fell in, but I think she had a good time. Anyway, we're still together and have children together, so I guess it went well. But that's it's the botanical gardens really of Frankfurt, and some beautiful sort of plants and trees there, and a very tranquil place to spend a nice kind of Saturday or Sunday.
And the interesting stuff that I found, it's a very beautiful botanical garden, and if you walk around, you only see trees, and then you take a right turn, and you see the trees. You are on a hill, and then you see all the skyline as well. Interesting combination.
Exactly, and there is actually a little area there's sort of an amphitheatre area where they do have concerts. I think Rufus Wainwright actually played there once.
Very nice, yes. So Frankfurt has a lot of nice places. It's unfortunately good at hiding them. Actually, Frankfurt also hid you from me for quite some time, but we finally managed to connect on LinkedIn, and you are actually based here in Frankfurt, but you're a headhunter focusing on Czech. But from your CV on LinkedIn, I can at least see that you've been a headhunter for quite some time. How did you get from a history major to headhunter to Frankfurt to start your own business?
Thank you. That's it's an unusual journey. I mean, first of all, the history degree. I mean, we used to say on the course, there's no future in it, right? And what can you do with a history degree? You go into teaching. But I think so I didn't do it with a view of, what this would lead to in terms of a career. I did it because I enjoyed it, and I wanted to pursue something that I enjoyed. And I think that is important still in life, to do something that you enjoy, otherwise you won't do it well. So with that, I actually then went to live in New York for about a year, and there I was actually working I interned at a record label. I was working for a startup in e-commerce that was selling. It was like an online music retailer, and then I came back from there, back to my hometown around Nottingham, and obviously to go from sort of New York to Nottingham, a huge culture shock, and just weren't the opportunities, because it being such a small city that Nottingham is. And so I was really struggling as to what to do. And I think this is classical of most people that are going to recruitment, is they don't plan to go into it. You fall into it. Nobody grows up dreaming, wanting to be a recruiter. You sort of get approached, and you either like it and you stay, or you don't like it and you move on. There is quite a high churn rate of people that go into the industry and then leave the industry. I think it's about 80% of recruiters don't make it past their first year for companies in the UK. Or at least those were the figures at the time I was working there. And when I went there, I was working in tech, really. So I started off, I was doing sort of Oracle technology, so a lot of database development as well, and sort of ERP, BI tools, as Oracle was buying up lots of other BI tools, and then was also sort of that's where my sort of interest in tech started. And then I was doing that for about 2.5 years, and I got this opportunity to come to Germany, and it just so happened that our business in Germany was actually, it didn't have an IT function. It was we were the sort of the rollout there was in the life science space. So I started, I switched from doing tech to life sciences, and was doing that for a number of years in Frankfurt, and enjoyed it. It was something different, and again, different skill set. So completely different to the skills and clients that I was working with in tech. But again, a great way of seeing, recruiting in a different country for different skill sets, different clients. So, help broaden my skills as a recruiter and give me greater depth and range across a number of different verticals and industries, and also countries as well. Because from Germany, sometimes we had projects I remember doing a project in Italy. We did a project in Denmark. We were working with clients in Switzerland. So again, had to sort of attract talents to these different locations, sometimes that I didn't even know anything about myself. We had to figure out, okay, how do you work compliantly in Denmark? What is the sort of the expat tax rate in Denmark that makes it attractive for people to go there? Then I kind of felt, after being at that company for about 10 years, I sort of felt something was missing and wanted a new challenge. And also my sort of interest in tech was calling me again. And I then took this opportunity. I moved companies to join a smaller company that were more focused around kind of using digital technology. So things like doing video job adverts, getting video CV applications from candidates, using things like sort of crowdsourcing techniques. And that was, it just caught my sort of attention for digital and love at the right time. And I went and worked for them. But about last year, obviously with the pandemic and having so much time working at home to think about things, I kind of realized there was more of a sort of transformation that was happening within me, and that I was started to question, okay, well, what is it that what do I enjoy, right? What do I want to spend more of my time doing, and what do I currently do? And so I went through a number of, went through this evaluation process and identified the things that really made me happy. And these are the values that I have. And I put these on my website, and I talk about these in my business. And, these are connection. These are achievement. It's creativity, discovery, and it's respect. And these 5 things are sacred for me. And I realized that by being self-employed, by starting my own, initially going self-employed with a view to incorporate at the end of this year, these would allow me to live these values and achieve the goals and spend more time doing the things that I wanted to do if I went down that route. So I then, at the end of last year, decided to leave the company. And then since the beginning of this year, then I've been self-employed. And because my love is my heart's still in tech, that's where I wanted to focus. And what I want to do is I want to build helping people, and this connection is very important to me. And so I want to help people. And who can I help the best? My community, right? I can help startups in Berlin. I can help startups in Hamburg. I can find the talent. I've done it before with not even living in the country. But I really want to help my community and the people around me. So I think I can, as you said, I know Frankfurt very well, and I know how it is to move to Frankfurt and to become a German citizen, and to set up as a freelancer and soon to set up a business here. And I can help people navigate that landscape in Frankfurt, as well as knowing how to attract those people. So I think that's more of a value add than helping a community that's somewhere else. So that's why my focus is Frankfurt. That's why it's tech. And I think startups are probably the ones that need the most help, because, particularly if they're here in Frankfurt, people want to move to Berlin. Berlin is already one in the top 10 startup cities globally. It's known, but Frankfurt isn't as well known for the startup scene. So it's going to require someone that knows the landscape and knows the city a bit better to help companies attract people to come here.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yes, I can totally see that. Again, Frankfurt is very good at hiding the bright spots in terms of tech, but actually, I do believe there is like a big cluster of startups coming from cities like Darmstadt or Mannheim, a little bit south to the city of Frankfurt, who are really promising. The people who subscribe to our podcast for quite some time may know like 10, 15 names from the startup scene down there in Darmstadt. They have a very good technical university, and they're really, really good at what they're teaching, and the people getting out there really know what they're doing, and a lot of them is looking at starting their own company. And so how do you then help? Let's say I'm a guy coming from whatever to Frankfurt to set up shop here with the company. We're not talking about the incorporation. That is a topic left to somebody else. But we're talking, I have the company, I'm working there. How do we recruit a tech team here? How would that work? Because my understanding is you're recruiting you by yourself right now. At the end of the year, the company, the incorporated company, is called Rebel Soul Recruitment. Where does the name come from? And do you only recruit rebels?
Yes, good question. So the name comes from a book that inspired me last year. So as I was sitting at home and reading and having time to reflect, I read a great book by a woman called Shelley Paxton, called Soulbatical, A Corporate Rebel's Guide to Living Your Best Life. And it inspired me. I kind of had this, as I said, I felt that I'd been a rebel. I've definitely wanted, and for me, I want to sort of get a clear definition of a rebel. Rebel for me, is somebody that wants to.
That is really interesting. I wanted to get a clear definition of a rebel. Isn't a rebel somebody who doesn't just follow mainstream? I would be curious how to define a rebel, because I would define it him or her the other way around, like not mainstream.
Yeah, not necessarily. I would say that for me, it's somebody that wants to do things differently with the view to making it better. So it's the end goal for me is not, I see a rebel as somebody that, as an innovator, somebody that wants to improve something, not someone that's doing something different just for the sake of it. That's not, that's, rebelling for, that's a rebel without a cause. And that's not what I am. And it's not what I think a lot of candidates are. We're not, and this is the thing, I think people some people have a negative connotation with the word rebel and see it as troublesome. They don't know how to, they think that they're just challenging the ideas because they're being difficult. And that's not really what a lot of people are doing. I'm sure there is a small minority, yes, but I think, trusting that, I think people are essentially good. And I think essentially people want to make things better. And they're just trying to see if there's a better way. And that's what essentially, I believe, a Rebel is doing. And I'm trying to build a community of these people that care enough to be different and to do something differently and make it better, and match them with employers where they feel empowered, where they feel valued for the innovation that they can bring, rather than in a company where they're having their sort of curiosity hammered out of them and sort of asked to be follow the accept the status quo rather than try and change things. So I hope I've got my definition across. And as I said, also for me, Rebel Soul was not only the book, but I also wanted to incorporate something that my kind of love of music, really. Soul music, Rebel, yes, Rebel, David Bowie, one of the greatest innovators in music in the 20th century, has to be said, never stood still, always changing. And I wanted that to shine through in the name and also the logo, that this is my brand, this is who I am. And I'm not saying, I'm trying to be inclusive. If companies want to work with me, I'm more than happy. If you're a big company and you want me to help attract talent, we can do that. But it needs to be, you need to understand my values, and I need to understand theirs. And it needs to be a place where the talent I'm providing feels valued.
And talking about recruitment, because in the past, I always had trouble to understand why there are so many SAP recruiters. First and foremost, there's a big demand, of course. And then I understood SAP has different modules, and you basically just need to find a person with a module experience XY and at least 5 years experience with that. And you just got your match, and that was it. I assume helping a startup to build up a tech team isn't that easy. How much tech input would you say is required from a founder, from a CTO, in order to enable you to start recruiting, from the technical perspective, from the technical skill perspective, not necessarily from the personality that would fit into the team, but from the technical skills they are demanding?
So sorry, just to understand the question, Joe, are you asking what my advice would be, how much technical expertise the founder should have themselves?
No. My question would be, if the founder, let's say I'm a founder, I now approach you and I say, okay, I need tech talent. You try to match the personality, the team spirit, the fit in the corporate culture, but how much of the other side of the technical abilities, the people you're looking for, would you need to understand in order to do a good recruitment? How much should the founder give you as an input in terms of, I'm looking for SQL, Java, C++, whatever? What kind of level would you recommend a founder put forward, for you as well as in an advertisement out there when they're actually looking for people?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what level you're looking at. Are you looking for, is this person going to be your CTO? Is this person going to be, your senior engineer? Or is this going to be, sort of a junior or a kind of, mid-level? So, we need to sort of define that in the initial consultation call, that we need to sort of work out what level of skills this person needs to have to bring. Then I would say, and also we need to make sure, and this is key in a startup as well, that your salary expectations are in line with the market. Because, if you want to hire a senior Java engineer and you're, only paying 40,000 euros, you're not going to find that person. Or, if you do find that person, they're not going to stay very long, because when they do come here and they realize what the market pays, they're going to leave. So, we need to set the I need to set the expectations and make sure that we align from the very beginning. Then when it comes to, the the founder, doesn't necessarily have to be a technical specialist themselves. And I understand that. Just as that, I don't expect them to be recruitment experts themselves. That's not their job. They've got lots of other responsibilities and obligations that they need to do. And that's where I bring a solution to them, which is a plug and play solution. So I'm giving them a hiring solution that's value based and data based. So what we do is we customize it to their needs. That we identify at the beginning what their values are, or the attributes that they want to have in an employee. So as we said, the kind of soft skills or human skills that we can test for, and then I can test that in the interview process. And then we have the technical side, and we can, I've then give them access to technical tests. They can design their own if they want to. Some companies do, they have their own, or I can give them access to technical tests whereby, we send out the links to the candidates, and then they're doing a SQL challenge for, 10, 30 minutes to check their scores there. And then based on this, I'm helping the managers, the founder really make an informed decision. Okay, you said you wanted these as attributes, okay, and this level of skills. Here's the scorecard. Let's have a look. This person is ranking here on this skill, this skill, this skill, and we can. It's data driven. It's not just a gut feel. At the end of the day, the client can then decide whether they want to, whether they do want to go on more of a gut feel about somebody. That's absolutely their right. But what I'm trying to do is make it a little bit more scientific and give it a bit more structure, because at the beginning, I'm sure they probably haven't had the time to think about these things. They just need the right talent with the right values quickly from someone that can attract it for them.
I was thinking, when you've been talking, turning it into recruiting into from a gut feeling, more data-driven decision is pretty good. We're already talking for more than half an hour by now, and I think we're not going to stress our audience much longer, because you'll be coming back for an episode on how-to for recruiting in our entrepreneur tools. But the question that I have right now is, what are like a few of the big mistakes you are seeing in terms of startup recruiting right now? In the past, I've talked to another headhunter, to William, and he talked about the importance of your first hires, that they make or break the startup. So I would be curious what traps the founders should avoid. What have you seen in the past, the typical mistakes founders are making?
I'd seen that. I've actually watched that episode with William, and I think he made that is a great point, and it is a common mistake. And I think he talked about choosing your values and then pursuing them relentlessly. And I think I've seen this happen in startups a lot of times. And you kind of, sometimes I think people are so keen to get the talent that they compromise. They compromise on certain things, and it hurts them. So, for example, they might take a senior, they might make allowances in somebody's character, in somebody's values, to take that senior engineer because of his or her expertise. But really, that person is not what the environment needs. It's not right for the culture. And then when you have problems in the culture, it doesn't matter how good that person is. If they can't work together, if there's an ego, if they don't know how to work in a team, if they're not humble, problems will come. And, this is why, 80% of startups actually fail due to team problems. So, and how frustrating is that? You've got the market fit. You've got the market, you've got the idea, you've got the product fit, you've got the investment. You're getting traction in the market, and then it implodes because you've got the wrong people on the bus. And these are things that can be and should be avoided. I think it's easy to go there. And look, don't get me wrong. I've been a manager myself, and I've built teams, and I've got things wrong. Right? I've made bad decisions by, compromising values for profit. I know it. I know it happens. But stick true to what you're doing, to what your values are, and that will stand you in good stead. Once you've got that core team of people, and they're good people, then you can achieve things.
That are just amazing closing words. For everybody who would like to learn more, reach out to you. Down here in the show notes, there will be your personal LinkedIn profile as well as your company website. And of course, we will have you back for another episode on recruiting here on Startuprad.io. Tim, it was just a pleasure having you as a guest, talking everything from history to Frankfurt to tech recruiting. I didn't expect that to come out of the interview, but it's great the way it is. Thank you very much for being a guest here.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joe. Thanks for having me.
My pleasure.
If you are a professional looking at the European startup scene, Germany is a place you cannot miss. Fortunately for you, there is Startuprad.io, the authority on German startups. This English-only podcast brings you fresh interviews each week. Most likely, you have never heard or read anything on these startups before in English, but you will in the future. Be ahead of the curve and subscribe to Startuprad.io podcast, or check for the Startuprad.io internet radio station. Check your Alexa for the Startuprad.io skill as well.